Hi, how you doing? I am here today with my live. As I said that I would be. I wanted to come here just to, first of all, just explain what Mommy Evolve is about, as if, we don't know, but just to give some more clarity as well as give my own story and just talk in general, because I haven't been online in a while. Well, to do a live anyway. I've been sharing different things, and we've been doing our Sunday morning calls, which happens 10 a.m. Eastern. And it's our mommy brunches. We chat about motherhood and various aspects. So last week we talked about love of ourselves and love of our children and how we express that in a holistic way. And then we also talked about, this week we talked about the metaphysics of mommyhood. So we talked from, conception to birth to the way that we take care of ourselves and take care of them. And so right now, I just wanted to tell you what is Mommy Evolve? Where did Mommy Evolve even come from? Our tagline is intergenerational healing and self-care, starting with you, using holistic methods to assist mothers with their own self-care and wellness, as well as their children's. And so the name Mommy Evolve, it was just something that popped up. I think I was having a conversation and was just talking about what I was going through, my transformation as a mother, and it came up. And that's how it was born. I was like, I know that there are other mothers out here. And initially, actually, it started for just single mothers, but then it expanded to just be for any mother because we all deal with similar things, even though being a single mother, I know, has its specific specific needs and specific issues. But I wanted to be inclusive of all mothers. And, women who know that they want more for their children, women who are dismantling and destroying generational curses, women who are creating a new way of doing things, seeing things, and thinking for themselves and for their children. Because one of the things when I was going through what I was going through, which was, a deep depression, having had a severe anxiety attack. Y'all have to excuse me. My hair is like all over the place. Matter of fact, let me take this off. I done messed my hair. Child, we in here together. So, I was going through all of those things, and I was like, why am I going through these things? Why do I feel? And then I was unsupported in the process. Like I had literally no one to talk to. I was afraid to bring the information, the conversation to my family because I just knew that they would kind of brush it off and be like, you're the strong one type thing and you'll be fine. But the truth of the matter is that I was really, having an existential crisis in my own self. Like, what am I doing with my life? Why have I not achieved certain things, even though I've worked so hard? Um, why, am I being so crabby towards my child? Why don't I like my mother? Like, all of these conversations were coming up as I was going through this crisis. So it didn't just go into or surround around my job. It started to branch out into basically that everything in my life, and just really looking at everything and really dismantling everything that I had been taught that I should do was not working for me. And there was no way for me to deny that fact anymore. I had to look at it. I was looking at the fact that I was working a 9 to 5, doing something that I should love, but I wasn't loving it because I wasn't making enough money to do the things that I wanted to do. And worse yet, I wasn't spending enough time with my own child, but I was with everybody else's. And I really had to look at that. So I had to dismantle some of the things that I had learned in my upbringing about what makes a person successful and happy. And that brought me to, why was I doing this? I was doing this to make money so that other people can see me a certain way. But it wasn't what I wanted to do. And, so then, of course, it got into the conversation of eventually, as I learned more about myself and deepened and became more honest with myself about what it is that I wanted. Of course, it went into the conversation about what I wanted and what I'm teaching my daughter to want, to understand about her own self, right? Because that's once you're a mother, that's the natural progression, and that informs, that question about your children informs you, and your questions about yourself inform your children. Like there's you can't separate that. And so I really had to be honest with myself. I had been not denying myself that I wanted to, be in a relationship, and just had been kind of like dating around or whatever. When the truth of the matter is that I wanted to be married. I wanted to be in a stable situation, because that's just who I am. I'm a Capricorn. Okay, stability is my thing. Groundedness is my thing. And so I had to look at that. I also had to look at my gifts, and the fact that I was an empath, an extreme empath, and that there were certain environments that I just couldn't be in. I had to look at using my gifts for, to assist me along the way. So basically, intergenerational healing is really about looking at the various stories that you've heard, whether it's the stories about yourself as an individual, because I always heard that, I was too fat or too whatever the case may be. You could have also heard a lot of, things that were positive, which is great, but that also can skew your view of yourself in some way, in terms of you're just trying to do things to fit into other people's mold. And really, again, Mommy Evolve is about dismantling all of these thought processes, these generational curses. Yes, we can say curse. Some are curses. Some are just hindrances in general to personal progress. There's so many of them in our society, and I feel like a lot of people are waking up now to these things. Abuse. Some of us think that abuse in families is acceptable. Whether it be yelling or, just speaking a certain way, or emotional abuse by always, trying to get someone to do something for them by way of guilt, or by way of this obligation that they should be, doing XYZ, paying for this or paying for that. I know I went through that in terms of feeling like I had to take care of certain people financially. And it's like, no, I don't. I need to take care of me and mine first. And if the people are willing to work with me so that we can build something together, then that's a whole nother conversation. But why should I be the burdened by someone else's needs? I just don't see it that way anymore. But there was a time when I felt like I had to do that. So those are some of the generational curses. I think emotional things are central to a lot of the generational curses that we have to dismantle, because there's so many courtesies and these kinds of unspoken, but they're energetic. I don't know how else to explain this. Some of you may know what I'm talking about when I say sometimes there's these energetic generational curses where it's like, this person can say XYZ to you and you can't respond to that because of your place in the family, right? Or, one of the ones that I hear all the time is, a woman is getting abused or in any way, shape, or form, and that is acceptable. She's getting yelled at every day, or even beat or sexually abused, and if she says something, the family is like, oh, psh, keep it under wraps, or whatever the case. That's severe emotional abuse, because what ends up happening, or what we are dismantling now, and a lot of the work that I do is around inner child. Because what happens when you are abused in certain ways as a child, then now you get stuck in that era. So if you're abused when you're 10 or whatever, your mindset somehow gets stuck there. Like, okay, when I was 10, I tried to buy something, or I got something. I did something that, was not acceptable in my family. And, I was yelled at and chastised, and treated poorly because of it. And so now I try to be the perfect child, or I act out, um, because, I'm trying to gain acceptance, really. But I don't know how to do this in a way that's emotionally balanced, right? So we have to, in those kinds of situations, we have to rethink what it means to be emotionally balanced. We have to go back to that time and understand when we were 10 years old, and understand how we felt and why we felt the way that we felt, and how we have been sort of recreating that through our actions throughout the years. We do it with finances. If we grew up poor, sometimes that can be used as fuel to make us become more fiscally responsible and become wealthy. But sometimes it can also turn into, poor spending habits, or trying to purchase things to feel better about yourself. There's so many different ways to look at this when it comes to intergenerational healing and self-care. And why I put the self-care there is because in order to really dig through all of these levels of these things, you have to really be able to sit with yourself. You really have to be able to ask yourself the critical who and what questions. You have to be able to muster up the strength to be able to say what you need to say to whomever you feel hurt you, without throwing yourself off balance. Because we know sometimes when emotions are involved and they're high, we can throw ourselves off balance by doing various things, overeating, or just having a lot of anxiety and all of those things. So self-care, when you're in any situation, is where you're trying to dismantle, these generational thoughts, is so critical. And one thing that I've noticed in my process, as I talked about earlier, was that, you see how these things show up in many other areas, right? So I always had an issue with trust, right? So, because I didn't spend a lot of time with my mother when I was growing up. She was always working, and our relationship has always been strained. And so that's why one of the things that I always work on with women are mother wound issues, right? Because I know that just because of time and generations and different things that happen in time, and because of the nature of our mothers having to work so much and do so much, we we didn't develop that generational bond that I feel is necessary to really have a strong familial structure. That bond between the mother and daughter is critical for that. And even what I think, it's what I know from observation. I'm an observant person. And when you look at societies where the family structure is strong, then there's a lot of things that you don't even deal with. But anyway, these one thing can go into other areas, right? So my issues with trust and not developing that bond with my mother went into my ability to develop bonds with other women, right? And sometimes it would play out as me not trusting them, but sometimes it would play out as me being too clingy, right? And so I had to find the balance within myself. I started to have to become my own best friend and my own, best person, and to mother myself. Okay, that's the name of one of the programs that I have, is Evolve the Inner Mother. And we go through the steps on how to do that. And so, but it also played out in my relationship, my marriage, trust issues. It played out in, the way that I trusted myself to step out and, start a business or to do other things. Because that foundation of trust wasn't built. And so I have to really slow down and reevaluate and think when I am doing something where I feel like, a high level of trust is required. And so I had to do a lot of work around trust, in order to get myself to that place. But that's one of the things that we have to be mindful of, is that, you know, when we have these wounds and when we have these stories in our head about what things should be, it really does affect the way that we interpret life. It really affects the way that we interpret life in so many ways. It doesn't have to. Once we become aware, now we have to shift our actions and really take care of ourselves in a way that allows us to change our actions and also change our mind, and also recognize when the thoughts are coming in our head about you know, an old story or whatever the case may be, that keeps us stuck in that mindset, in that mind frame. Ultimately, it's all about freedom. Okay, free yourself from these patterns, these unhealthy patterns is the point. And we also see how it plays out in our children too. Once we, you know, have these things within ourselves that needs to be shifted, we see how some of these things play out in our children for sure. Because I know when I was going through, you know, my when it all came to a head, because I had always been going through it, but it expressed itself through a severe anxiety attack, where it came to the point where I literally felt like I was having a heart attack, and it felt like I couldn't breathe, and it was a very dark time in my life. But I'm thankful that I went through it, because I've built myself up to a point where I don't have to experience that level of distance from myself in order to recognize that there's an issue, and then to make changes, right? Because what ends up happening is we ignore ourselves, we ignore what's going on inside of us, and then it all builds up, and then it all explodes, and it turns into a physical ailment in some way, shape, or form, because we're not dealing with the emotions, and we end up having to face ourselves. That could happen through our awareness, or it can happen through, you know, our spirit guides, our guides, internal guides, showing us what we need to do by giving us something that will make us sit our behinds down and think about ourselves. So it could be proactive or it could be reactive. It's your choice. Are you willing to face what it is that that has been bothering you, or that you know needs to be addressed? Are you willing to face that? And I know for me, for a long time, even though I had done work around, you know, all my other issues, you know, I didn't get to the core of it, which was, you know, that mother wound, and really dealing with it. I'm so thankful that I had guides and people who helped me to really go through that and have conversations that were important to have. And so that's why I'm adamant about being that woman, to even just be the listening ear. Some people don't even want to hear the stories that women want to share, you know, don't even want to hear it. And so some of the holistic modalities that I use that work for me and that I absolutely love is Reiki. I love Reiki. Okay, Reiki is like everything, because it's giving you, I feel like it's just wrapping yourself in the love of the universe and just making you realize and understand that you are powerful in and of yourself, and that you are capable to change anything that it is that you want to change in your reality. You can't change who your mother is, but you can definitely shift your thoughts around why things happen. There was a reason why you chose her as your mother, right? It's the reason why your soul chose her. What is it that you need to learn? Lessons that you need to learn, right? You can take all of the good, because even when we think that everything that was given was bad, there's always good that was given. A good lesson, through lessons can come in many different ways. As I said, proactive, reactive. It can hit you in your head, or you can see something and become immediately attracted and enlightened by a thing. It's your choice, right? But what ends up happening is that when we have pains and hurts, we allow those pains and hurts to remove us from the reality that we have a choice. We always have a choice. You always have a choice. So anyway, that is what Mommy Evolve is. That is Mommy Evolve. That is the work and the goals of Mommy Evolve is to assist women and mothers in healing themselves so that they can usher their children into healed and evolved lives as well, and so that we can live powerfully, because none of our healing is for naught if we can't pass it down to next generations. That's what we do for. Any knowledge we acquire, anything that we learn, we do it. We can't take none of it with us, or what's the point of taking it with us? We might as well give it to people who need to know. So intergenerational healing and self-care, starting with you. And when I say self-care, I love a good spa package, but I'm talking about going in the inner workings of your mind and talking about those issues that bother you and finding solutions to those issues. Finding solutions to those issues. And knowing that is possible. So Mommy Evolve is here. I have a business page. You can go to that page and look at the services there. I have services for both mother and child. There is the Evolve the Inner Mother class, which is a 6-week class, course on divine motherhood, basically. So we go through the generational curses. We go through guilt and shame, which is a huge blockage for women because it creates fears. And we go through various modules and all of that. If you're interested, I will send it to you. My email address is MommEvolve, MommEvolve @gmail.com. And as I said, if you go to my page, I do past life readings. I am doing astrology charts for both you and your child. And I do mentoring, and I love doing mentoring because we get to spend time together. I give you assignments to reinforce what we discuss. And I am here. To be of service to women who are in need of knowing and getting to a deeper level of themselves and really paying attention to themselves, because we are ultimately the future, and we're guiding the future. And people are looking to us to do that. People are looking toward us to do that. You can go to my website, www.mommyevolve.com. You can see the services and products there. And I am going to see you soon. I will be on my YouTube channel. I'm actually going to upload this to my YouTube channel, Mommy Evolve, and I'm going to actually do another video for C Speaks Life, my other YouTube channel and blog. Anyway, all right, my loves, it's been a pleasure. Peace.